wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, 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 though we've come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come this side. Come, come, whoever you, this side. Come, come, whoever you are. Yet again come. One more time. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, yet again come. Come, yet again come.
Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning worship service of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church in Naperville, Illinois. I am Nell Haslett-Bruce, a member of your Board of Trustees. We're glad you're here today, whether you are present in the sanctuary this morning or watching remotely. It is so good to be together. We welcome you to our church and invite you to get to know us better during and after the service. As Unitarian Universalists, we hold that there are many paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another on our spiritual and religious journeys while holding ourselves in covenant through our shared 7 principles. The mission of DuPage UU Church is to gather as an inclusive community, to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world towards fairness, love, and compassion. Whoever you are, wherever you are on life's journey, wherever you are in the world, you are welcome here. I have an announcement today. The Endowment Grant Task Force encourages our church committees, program teams, or staff to consider applying for this year's endowment grant funds. This money is available to use toward one-time DuPage UU church-related projects that are not funded in the annual operating budget. Proposed projects should be in alignment with our mission. Past grants have been awarded to add AV equipment to the Learning Center and to improve accessibility of our back patio, and the low flush toilets in the lower level endowment grant. This year we have slightly more than $8,000 available to award to one or more projects. To apply, check the weekly newsletter or the Here's What's Happening page on the website for a link to the application. Your submission should be completed no later than May 31st to be considered for 2024 grant funds. And we also have an update from our capital campaign.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Kevin Mulqueeny. I'm the Vice Chair of Phase 4 of the Embracing Our Future capital campaign. We are so grateful for the generosity that you all have shown over the past few months. Our pledges for the capital campaign to eliminate our debt have now exceeded $1.4 million. With only 10 days left in the campaign, for those of you who still want to make a gift, you can fill out a card after the service at our table in Creeves Hall. You can also go to Realm, and if you need help figuring out Realm, we can help you at the table in Creeves Hall. Or you can send an email specifying your gift to our capital campaign treasurer, Lindy Spreetsma. My main message today is that we need everyone to complete their financial promise for the 2024-25 annual budget, in addition to the capital campaign, within the next 10 days. This will enable the board to approve our budget during the first week of May, that then we all can review and vote on at the June 2nd annual meeting. Again, we have cards on our table that you can fill out after the service to make your promise, or you can complete it on Realm or email Lindy. And although we don't want to bug anyone, we will be following up with phone calls and emails to help you make that promise, because we really do need it for our annual operating budget. And lastly, on a personal note, as I have seen our capital campaign numbers climb, filling up that thermometer that's currently out in Creeves Hall, it really makes me feel even more validated by our decision as a family to join this church. And I feel everyone here really cares about the future of our church and about my family's future here with it. And so I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you so much.
All right, if you are online, I invite you to greet each other through the chat. And if you are present here, I invite you to turn to someone you did not come with this morning and greet them with a wave and a good morning greeting.
We light this chalice today for our Seventh Unitarian Universalist principle. We believe in the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
You may be wondering why you're seeing me here instead of at the welcome table this morning, and it's because Reverend Mandy cannot be here today because she has a migraine. So this is what staff teamwork looks like. Welcome to this place of love, of communal flourishing. We enter this worship space to open our hearts, to expand our minds, and to see the sacred within each other. Come, let us worship together.
Please stand in body or spirit. Go ahead.
please rise in body and/or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 331, Life is the Greatest Gift of All. Vera will play it through once. Life is the greatest gift of all the riches on this earth.
Please join me in reading our mission. We gather as an inclusive community to grow in character, mind, and spirit, and to transform the world towards fairness, love, and compassion.
Our vision of beloved community is rooted in the relationships we have with each other, our world, and creation. Each week, we share our joys and concerns. Today's flowers were given by Carolyn and Jean Atkin in honor of their first date in 1955. I have a note from Barb Bruce. Thank you so much.
Oh dear, I can translate it. I wanted to thank Reverend Mandy, PMA, and the church community for all your really kind thoughts regarding the death of my husband.
Thanks, Barb. We also want to keep in our thoughts and in our hearts the people in Iran, Israel, Palestine, all the things that are happening out in the Middle East. And even when the cares of the world weigh on us, may we find joy in our connections with each other and in the pleasures that life holds. Let us care for one another and for ourselves in all the ways we can. As we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all of our joys and all of our sorrows, whether spoken or unspoken, please join together in a moment of meditative silence. It is time to gather. Today I have a fun story about how plants grow. It is Oh Say Can You Seed? All About Flowering Plants by Bonnie Worth. I'm Cat in the Hat, and I think that you need to come take a look at this thing called a seed. From the giant gum tree to the very small weed, every flowering plant starting out as a seed. Plants are so useful to me and to you. Can you think of the ways? I will name a few. The paper for books and the cloth for your pants came from the trees and from cotton. That's two kinds of plants. The grains and the fruits and the veggies you eat, why, they come from plants too. And here's something neat. In the deserts and in woods and rainforests thick, grow plants that can make you feel well when you're sick. Yes, plants serve us well and fill so many needs, and flowering plants all started as seeds. Just what is a seed? You are wondering, maybe? Well, you might say a seed is a tiny plant baby. The best way for you to see what I mean is to take a close look at a seed called a bean. Like all seeds, a bean comes in three basic parts. And thing one and thing two, please bring out the charts. Part one is the first that I think you should know. It's the part that's the baby. It's called the embryo. To sprout, it needs food, like you and I do, which brings us to seed part numero 2. It's called cotyledon. Say, isn't that fun? This bean seed has 2, but some others have 1. Last comes the third part that you need to know. It's the coat, which protects our cute bean embryo. To sprout a bean seed, keep it moist but not wet. Keep it covered with dirt, and then see what you get. In 7 or so days comes the part that I love. A root spreads below and a stem above. Now, in order to show a green bean plant to you, we've traveled in time for some months, maybe 2. Thing 2 calls the part above the ground the shoot system, which contains the stem, leaves, flowers, and fruit, and thing 1 calls the part underground the root system. To get a good look at the roots underground, it is better to make like a mole, I have found. Roots are not pretty, they're twisty and hairy, and some roots even look like a little bit scary. Roots anchor a plant and help it stand true. Roots suck up the water and minerals too. And roots keep the soil from washing away. And that's pretty important, now wouldn't you say? We've talked about roots and we've learned about them. Now it's time we move on to the stem. The stem is a pipe through which water shoots. It's absorbed from the soil and passed up through the roots. It shoots through the plant, and next, as you'll see, the leaves each turn into a food factory. And just like the rhino is protected with horns, the stem of a rose is protected with thorns. Leaves come in all shapes and all sizes, I've found, and some small and some spiky, some big and some round. But the thing that all leaves have in common is this: they make their own food by photosynthesis. I'll say this quite loudly. I don't mean to be rude, but plants are the only living things on earth that make their own food. To do this, plants need water, minerals, and sun. And that's why the daytimes when food making is done. For you, information, For your information and also for fun, hop in my shrink upper and let's see how it's done. The leaf takes in CO2 through a stoma or pore, and it works like a mouth, and that's what it's for. Then the air gets mixed in with the water and the sun, and that's how the food factory making is run. Plants breathe out a gas that we breathe in. The gas is oxygen. And I see by my clock that now is the hour to drop in and say hello to a flower. Thing 2 has a chart, and he will share it with you, that shows what all the parts of a flower all do. In the pistil are ovules. They're unfertilized seeds. And the stamen holds pollen, which the ovule needs. An unfertilized ovule will not ever grow, and pollen's the stuff that will fix that, you know? A flower's own pollen, or another's okay, and that's where the bees play a role, by the way. To make honey, bees need to get nectar from flowers, and they fly and they gather, and this sweet stuff for hours. And the pollen sticks onto their bodies and legs, and it falls off sometimes, and it reaches the eggs. An ovule that's fertilized becomes a seed, and around it grows fruit, upon which we feed. And when we say the word fruit, do you know what that means? It means olives, nuts, grains, plantains, and tangerines, and apples, and oranges, and pineapples too. All kinds of plant foods that are healthy for you. Now, some fruits are juicy and messy to munch on, and dry ones like nuts are nice to crunch on. Not all plants with seeds give us edible fruit, and some plants have seeds that look weird or look cute. But seeds are hitchhikers, burr seeds are hitchhikers that ride on your clothes, and dandelion seeds sometimes fly up your nose. Some seeds come in pods that explode like a sneeze, and other seeds may have wings and can fly on a breeze. But whether they stick or they blow or they fly, seeds bring us life, and now you know why. And I see the sun setting, and here comes the moon. Your mother is calling, your dinner is soon. I hope you have learned from my little seed talk, and now I will climb up this giant beanstalk. Let's sing to the children.
Giving of our treasure is how we reciprocate the many gifts we are given by this community. Your contribution supports the programs and operations of DuPage UU Church. Giving is also how we live our values in the world. Each month, we share our offerings with an organization nominated by the congregation and selected by the special offering team. This April, the special collection will benefit the Hope Fair Housing Center, nominated by DUUC member Barbara Roos. Based in Wheaton, Illinois, Hope serves over 30 counties in northern and north central Illinois to create greater housing opportunities so that everyone has a chance to live in the community, home, or apartment of their choice, free from discrimination. Hope accomplishes this through education, outreach, enforcement, training, and advocacy. The morning's offering to support the work of DuPage Unitarian Universalist Church and the Hope Fair Housing Center is given and received in a spirit of generosity and gratitude. Today's reading is Epiphany in the Beans from the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I looked around at the garden and could feel her delight in giving us these beautiful raspberries, squash, basil, potatoes, asparagus, lettuce, kale, and beets, broccoli, peppers, Brussels sprouts, carrots, dill, onion, leeks, spinach. It reminded me of my little girl's answer to, "How much do I love you?" "This much," with arms stretched wide, they would reply. This is really why I made my daughters learn to garden, so they would always have a mother to love them long after I'm gone. The epiphany in the beans. I spend a lot of time thinking about our relationships with the land, how we are given so much and how we might give back. I try to work through the equations of reciprocity and responsibility, the whys and wherefores of building sustainable relationships with ecosystems, all in my head. But suddenly there was no intellectualizing, no rationalizing, just pure sensation of baskets full of mother love, the ultimate reciprocity, loving and being loved in return. Now, the plant scientist who sits at my desk and wears my clothes and sometimes borrows my car, she might cringe to hear me assert that a garden is a way that the land says, "I love you." Isn't it supposed to be just a matter of increasing net primary productivity of the artificially selected domesticated genotypes, manipulating environmental conditions through input of labor and materials to enhance yield? Adaptive cultural behaviors that produce a nutritious diet and increase individual fitness are selected for. What's love got to do with it? If a garden thrives, it loves you? If a garden fails, do you attribute potato blight to a withdrawal of affection? Do unripe peppers signal a rift in the relationship? I have to explain things to her sometimes. Gardens are simultaneously a material and a spiritual undertaking. That's hard for scientists so fully brainwashed by Cartesian dualism to grasp. We are linked in a co-evolutionary circle. The sweeter the peach, the more frequently we disperse its seeds, nurture its young, and protect them from harm. Food plants and people act as selective forces on each other's evolution, the thriving of one in the best interest of the other. This, to me, sounds a bit like love. My daughter grows her garden for the food, My daughter grows her garden for the food and the satisfaction of hard work, yielding something so prolific, she says. and it makes her feel at home in a place to have her hands in the earth. I ask her, "Do you love your garden?" Even though I already know the answer. But then I ask, tentatively, "Do you feel that your garden loves you back?" She's quiet for a minute. She's never glib about such things. "I'm certain of it," she says. "My garden takes care of me like my own mama." The end.
Words by Reverend Mandy. I worry that sometimes we look at our lives as a series of events that happen to us, with our participation in those events limited to interactions with people. It is a shame, really, if that's the case. We are meant to be participants in the ongoings of the world. Participation is active and asks us not only to interact with others, but to observe and pay attention to all that is around us. I came to the idea of participation in life unintentionally. I did not wake up one morning and think, I'm going to pay attention and try some new things. Rather, with the desire to provide my children with good food in economic struggles, I dug deep into the earth and found myself transformed. My participation has been a webbed, intertwined, and circular journey. It weaves back and forth with no obvious end. And this participation in life through gardening has gifted me with lessons for both life, but also things that bring back to our congregations. So today I share with you some lessons of my garden. Lessons learned from listening to the earth as an active participant. It is a journey with twists and turns. Sometimes I have found myself right where I started, but not the same person. This story is a dialogue, a conversation, and a heck of a lot of listening with Mother Earth. I'd like to think that she gets as much as I do from our relationship, but I'm not sure if that's true. I think she gives much more than I can. She loves me more than I can ever possibly love her. Whenever someone tells me they want to start gardening, a part of my soul screams, yes, yes, tend our Mother Earth, hold her close and listen to her secrets. But gardening is a gift of reciprocity. You must give in order to take those secrets. And giving in this case, while it is a simple gift, is hard labor. That labor, though, is particular. I'm not just talking about back bending, dirt under your fingernails labor. It is a labor that must be adaptable. Even in the predictable pieces of gardening, such as the perennial plants, there's always change happening. Different weather patterns, new insects, or simply an invasive species. I think we like to fool ourselves into thinking that we have our routines, that things remain the same, and that they should remain the same. But just 2 consecutive gardening days will tell you that nothing in the natural world is ever the same. Maybe the temperature is different, or it's bees instead of mosquitoes flying around your head. Life doesn't know how to stay the same. Each day, plants, animals, and humans must adapt to new information we encounter. I suppose it's a bit like congregational life. Things do not and cannot remain the same in our congregations. Frankly, if they did, not only would life be boring, but we would never be challenged. I think this is the key to both gardening and life. Gardening is creating growing conditions that allow a plant to thrive within its setting, to be its optimal self, to grow as tall, as full as it can, to cultivate as many fruits, and to give back to its environment what it gets. Life, too, is about creating the ultimate growing conditions. Our congregations serve just that purpose. They help us to cultivate the best of ourselves. We, too, always grow, always change. Cultivating our fruit for others to share, and in gratitude for this growth, we give what we can back to our community that fosters this space for us. There is a cycle of give and take. We grow in the optimum conditions our community gives us, and as we grow, we give the gifts that our growth fosters back to our community so that it continue to help us grow. The thing is, though the growing conditions that a garden creates sometimes allow space and ideal conditions for plants that many gardeners consider unwanted, at least unwanted in the garden. We deem these plants weeds because they are not as beautiful they are not as beautiful as bee balm or coneflowers, because they give us less fruit than zucchini or watermelon. Yes, some of these plants will totally take over the garden, leaving no room for more desired plants. We certainly have to trim those plants back or uproot them, but most of them, while not necessarily helpful to us, are helpful to our mother and her children, and many are helpful to us in disguise. Jewelweed, which has tiny yellow and orange flowers, has no purpose in the garden except to attract pollinators. Yet the sap from the stems of those so-called weeds can actually help with mosquito bites. Or how about plantain, a common weed often found in the cracks of the sidewalk? Native people sometimes call this white man's footprints because it's an invasive species brought by Europeans to the North American continent. Yet it, too, is more than meets the eye. The salve that can be made from its leaves, combined with beeswax and olive oil, heals cuts and scrapes and burns and scratches. Yes, sometimes growing conditions are ideal for growth. We see this in congregations. Healthy growing conditions can also leave space for surprise species with gifts that we didn't even know we needed. Sometimes growing conditions are healthy for a plant we didn't anticipate, and we need to let go of plans to plant okra so that the beans that reseeded themselves from last year can thrive. And speaking of letting go, gardening is the ultimate lesson in letting go. Just plant your garden and go away for 2 weeks. It's likely you will find either plants wilting and dying in the sun or a new jungle everywhere, all around you when you get back. It's likely you might find a volunteer from last year's sunflowers or your neighbor's garden somewhere in the mix. Or how about finding a new species of pollinator that you never knew about? Letting go is not only about realizing what can and cannot control. It is also about opening yourself to the new. When you loosen the reins on a horse, you might find a new path. In a garden, you'll likely find new species or new insects. You also might find yourself beginning to listen and see and learn from things that you never thought of before. Watching the northern flickers congregate in my Oak Park yard made me curious about what they were eating. I found a massive ant colony in the backyard. Before I called the exterminator, however, I realized that these ants were not only feeding the beautiful bird, but were helping my plants. My peonies needed the ants to help them open their blooms. They also aerated my soil and helped to decompose leaf litter. Now, all three species, ants, birds, and humans, live in harmony together. I just needed to pay attention. Paying attention includes listening to the subtle cues. Plants will certainly tell you how they feel. Leaves are often the mirror of a plant, telling you when a bug or a fungus is bothering them, telling you when a plant needs more water or has too much water. I suppose that is a lot like humans. There are often outward signs for us too, for when we need a break. I am reminded here of the Hebrew biblical story of Elijah, who at one point gets mad at God. God's response to him is to eat and take a nap. Gardening has taught me to pay attention to cues in a new way, to be mindful of when I need to eat and take a nap, to suggest the same for others, but for these cues also reminds us of the reciprocity of nature. The plants need us and we need them. Just like in our own congregational community, we need each other. Even if we don't need to be watered or don't know how to ask to be watered, we are still part of a garden. We can shade each other, attract pollinators, or just simply be a beautiful bouquet. Each part of the garden, like each part of the congregation, has its own part to play, large or small, and each part needs each other to be complete. To be a truly complete garden, though, we need variety. Modern agriculture has gifted us with insect-repelling, drought-resistant, self-pollinating crops. While some of these advances are good, they also create monoculture, meaning they leave us susceptible to disaster if the crop fails for some reason. If one only plants one kind of corn and that corn fails, the impacts are massive. To be truly successful, we need variety. Lemon, lime, and purple basil, red okra and tiger melons, black corn, amaranth, and black-eyed peas. The more we have, the more resilient we are because because our gifts are shared and because we are not reliant on just one crop. Our variety makes the garden ecosystem of DUUC work. When we tend our individual plants, we tend to each other. Companion gardening is what it's called when plants work together while they are growing. Tomato and basil taste good together and grow well together. We need each other. And so when we tend ourselves, making ourselves the best we can be, we are also tending to each other and the garden of DuPage UU Church, and ultimately the garden of Unitarian Universalism. When we listen to the lessons of our Mother Earth teaches us, so our garden might flourish. How are you listening to the ways that Mother Earth is loving you and the garden we might become?
Please rise in body and or spirit. Join me in hymn number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Tomorrow is Earth Day. Let us pay attention to the ways that Mother Earth cares and loves us. Let us take those lessons and apply them in new ways, and let us tend to the body of the earth so that the lessons we learn do not end with us.
Please join me in saying our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish the light of this chalice, but not the light in our hearts. Until we meet again, may the warmth of our community carry you.